Hi there, my name is Meredith White. I teach Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I have recently gone desk free. I keep saying desk less, and then I had somebody correct me and say, "You don't have less desks. You have no desks. You're free of desks." But then somebody else chimed in like it would be fewer desks, not less. Anyway, and it digressed into this whole weird thing. So now I don't know which hashtag to use. Deskless classroom, desk free. Listen, I got no furniture. Okay, that's all I want to say. So, as you can see on my screen, I have a panorama, which makes my classroom look very large, and it is not. That is the joy of the panorama. The panorama is to classroom pictures what filters are to our complexions. It's just like, oh, bright and shiny and amazing. It's not really this big. However, you can see, you get a really good look at the layout and kind of a feel for how things have really broken up in terms of the furniture. If I look back at my previous panorama picture, I should have had this pulled up before. This was my classroom previously. So this was like at the beginning of the year-ish. This is a more accurate picture of how large it isn't. And so in the top picture, I'm actually just turned with that bulletin board behind me. So all I've done is angle, but it's still 3 by 3, 3 groups of 4 by 3 groups of 4, 3 rows, 3 columns. So you can see how much space has truly been freed up. The carts have not gone anywhere. The carts I use for everything under the history, like in the history of everything. Folders and copies, and before I was doing a separate drawer per class, which I found successful, especially on block scheduling. I was putting other materials in there too, anything that we'd use, the Play-Doh and, Beanie Babies and blah, 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 blah. So I had more stuff in there, but now it's just one drawer per class. As you can see on the group tables at the bottom, I also have little picture frames that can hold group numbers, but in the carts on the top, I just ended up writing the group numbers on top. I love those IKEA frames, probably too much, more than is probably healthy, because they're awesome and they were cheap, so it's a great combo. And so my first thought was like, oh no, I don't get to use my cute picture frames, but I got on over that. Got a silver Sharpie, and then just wrote the group numbers on the top. So each group in my class has about 3 or 4, because I have large classes, so I need about 8 or 9 groups of 4. And that didn't change. So what's been really fun, I'm going to minimize this, what's been really fun about going desk free, desk 0, I should just call it desk 0, unless mine counts, and then it's desk 1, hashtag desk 1. No, what's been really fun about going desk free, several things have been fun, but what's been cool was the introduction. I prepared my students a lot and prepared them sort of for what would be what I anticipated their struggles would be and their favorite parts, and then mine, and all of the above. And one of the cool things has been that our systems haven't changed. There wasn't like an overhaul of like, okay, and now we find this here and this is located over here. Really, that stuff didn't change. So I was really fortunate that I already had successful, efficient systems in place, one of them being the group carts. And so therefore students didn't come in and go, what? We find all our stuff where now? Because I'm sorry, but I teach in the real world, and with a class of, 30 plus, you cannot be standing in that little doorway explaining, and you're going to find this here, and then and your seat number is, to every single student. It would be like just more triage than usual. And we all know that teaching is just a little bit of built-in triage. And so that would have been just ridiculous. So they were able to come in. So first day, I'd prepped them all the previous week. Here's what's happening. Here's what to expect. So on and so forth. You're just going to have a chair. We're going to have some clipboards. Don't worry. Because they're like, oh, what do we do for tests? What are we going to do for writing? Remember, when are we ever sustained writing for a long time? We're not. We keep things moving, especially on block schedule. Unless it's a test or a writing performance, they're really not writing that long. And even then, you can break that up a little bit to avoid test fatigue and all those kind of things. So, I reminded them we're not really writing for super long, concentrated periods of time. And so that's not really a concern. and your group is the same. So the people that they were sitting near on Friday are the same people that they're sitting next to now. They just came in and I said, remember your group number, which they look at every day. And if they didn't, there's only 8 or 9 carts they have to go around and check. So it was not a like a labor intensive switch in terms of telling them where to go. It was like, find your folder, that's your group. If you never noticed the number before, notice the number now, and so on. You could easily display that someplace on some kind of like dry erase surface or whatever, just each class, who's in what group. And then there's your seating chart too. So, or give them a copy of the seating chart. I have a friend who gives students copies of the seating chart. That way they know each other's names too, and they can see kind of where everyone is, especially if they're doing an interpersonal or there's a sub. You don't have just one student helper. You have everyone who's got a copy of the roster essentially and of the seating chart. Plus they have what everyone wants to be called, which is pretty cool. Not just, their names, which other students may not want other students to know, but that's a whole separate note. So you can see the physical space. Like I said, carts stayed the same. And now, as opposed to before with the desks as they were, you can see that these people, like, let's see, like these people over here, like this person here, kind of this person here, although it's angled in this picture. And then this person here always had their back to the board, and there's not really anything I could do about it. Again, I've said this before you pick up your torch and your pitchfork and quickly respond, well, the desks could be turned this way and could be angled so that they're puzzle pieces. I know that. I've done that. But in this particular room, with this particular setup, with the desks with the arm, they don't pinwheel very well, and I have to fit 36. So here we find ourselves trying to find a solution that also doesn't make me go crazy and have to, have all of this just unnecessarily used space, which when you pinwheel them, yes, everyone can get in really cleanly, but inevitably somebody's back is turned to the front. And whereas we're still interactive, ideally, on our best day, we're interactive and we're moving around, and it's not so teacher-centered that they need to be staring at wherever the front is for too long. The truth is, there's some stuff that just needs to be up here or projected, or I need you to see over here. And as much as I move around, it's just not always reasonable and feasible. I'm going to make that reasonably feasible. It's not always reasonable and or feasible to ask students to be like this for like even 10 minutes. Like even if you're like, dude, I need 10 minutes for the warm up and bear with me here if you can. So they can always angle the desk, but then some don't. And so they'll turn, and you're like most like, and I say best, meaning best, like attention span people, your high flyers, your pleasers, the kids who are like, I'm with you, I'm well fed, like can still only do this about as long as I can do it at a faculty meeting, which is about a minute. Because even then I'm like, okay, well, I'm still listening. I can hear you. I'm just not. If I can't turn around without being like, and move it, and then I feel like I'm in somebody else's way, then I'm just not. I'm going to listen. Inevitably, I may probably get distracted. So yeah, inevitably I'll get distracted. But I'm an adult, and I'm a polite adult, and that may not be obvious. And our kids are kids. I mean, teenagers are teenagers. And so they'll really try, even your best intentioned, or they will turn. But then they've got to turn back to work with their group. And it was just like, this should not be a logistical problem just for you to see the front and me to fit in desks for all my students. So like I said, you can see the spatial difference from before and after. And now everyone can start out here and be facing the front. There can be teacher-centered input, the first 10, 15 minutes or whatever. First 10, last 10, and then the meat is in the middle part. So like I need the bread. I've got to have the bread of class. And then the middle parts, the meaty parts and the condiments, those we can, switch up. So I always tell them, like, expect to be facing front at the beginning, expect to be facing front at the end. All I require is the bread. Now there may be some little like lettucey parts where we're all facing front, but really count on the bread. We'll see what happens. And so for kids whose positioning I had set up for failure, there wasn't much they could do. Sweet ones would kind of like, oh, okay, can I just like sit over here in the corner and look? Yeah, absolutely. But then, like I said, then you're disconnected from your group, and like, it's just weird and a thing that didn't really need to happen. Now without the desks, there's no it's just like, quick turn, do this, quick now, do this. And they can. There's nothing stopping them. I've been chronicling our experience here, going desk free at tiny URL. I'm going to type it in here, but I won't press enter. Let's see, tinyurl.com/Senora Blanco goes desk free. When you go here, this will come up, and I've got pictures labeled by what it is that they are showing, as well as the ongoing Google Doc that's serving kind of as a blog post. So as I pull this up here, you've got the day that I got the chairs and got rid of the desks, which was Saturday, technically Friday, November, the last day of November. And then Saturday I went in and worked out the chairs and organized a few things. And I've got pictures. I actually got rid of an entire cabinet, which was freaking amazing. I was just like, it's like the purge, like done. Get rid of the furniture, get rid of the cabinet. There are materials in like that my hair been doing this the whole time? Good grief. Just caught a reflection of myself in the window. Well, listen, we're teachers, right? We look at ourselves in the mirror, once a day? I mean, it's like, how long has that spinach been there? Why does my hair look like a rooster? And have I had, 2 different shoes and chalk on my pants all day? Yes. The answer is yes to all of the above. Whatever. I just finally said that this furniture has got to go. And I have so many materials that I have purchased over the years, thousands of dollars, like a couple $1,000s worth of materials. Not probably, definitely. And then some, but I'd like to not admit how much I've spent over the last 11, 12 years. So I'm going to keep that to myself now that I'm like, probably a couple thousand, definitely a few thousand. And so I have all of this stuff, board games and manipulatives and, like just cool stuff that I buy at conferences. That World of Reading lady takes like $200 every time I go there. And all of this stuff. And then why is it sitting in a cabinet? Also, why is it sitting in a second cabinet over in the corner? The second cabinet. It was in that other picture. Let's see if we can find it here. The second picture where you can see the bookshelf in the corner. Oh, look it. They're all the books I've bought over the last 7 years or so. Dr. Seuss, kids' books in Spanish. Like tiered proficiency-based novels. Great. Some like other novels from Carol Gobb and Christy Placido and like Myra Canyon, like amazing, amazing people. Oh, and there they sit on top of the cabinet, out of arm's reach. What? Who buys books and then puts them where the students cannot reach them? No, I do not want you to read freely and voluntarily, but I'd like you to look at the books and just know that you've been invested in, but you don't get to touch them. You're just, I feel good about myself because I've bought books for you, but I don't give you access to them. Oh my God, but there was nowhere else to put them. As you can see, there's not like a ton of space. Things are organized, but like, can I put them in those, in that bookshelf? No, that bookshelf back there is holding, boxes with like stuff in them. 3 out of 9 boxes are now empty. The other 6 have been like condensed because they weren't like items. Now they are. Like, I just really had to have a little come to Jesus last Saturday and like get my act together. This entire cabinet now gone, as you can see. And oh my goodness, what a concept. Books in reach of the students. And as you can imagine, students have looked at books and gone, oh, this one looks interesting. Can I look at this magazine? Yeah, you can. You can look at that magazine, one of about 15 here that cost me about $95 in Peru and Spain this year combined to bring back like new relic. Yes, that's why I spent that money. I'm not mentioning money several times to like keep talking about how much we spend, but in languages, I mean, I don't see calculus people buying authentic resources, and I don't mean that any disrespect, obviously, to calculus people. I just mean our content is constantly evolving, constantly changing. And for Spanish, you've got over 20 countries to take into consideration. We're like bringing authentic resources. I'm in Peru, like putting yogurt cups in my trash, and other people's garbage in my suitcase. Just like my friend Linda Markley taught me to. Like, you bring that trash home and you use that garbage in your classroom, and it's amazing. But other than everyone's like Sprite bottle and the bag of Doritos and everything else, we need stuff sometimes. And then we need that stuff in the hands of the students, because the stuff in the, you know, a foot and a half away from the ceiling is helping 0 people. So that's really embarrassing. But anyway, we're moving on from my shortcomings. So I didn't have a place for them, and now I have a place, and I can actually prioritize access. I think access is really what is making language teaching go round right now. Access to proficiency, access to, our teaching and our methodology, access to our materials. I'm big on traveling with novices, so access to travel. I think it's just all about access. So access to materials, access to reading materials, and so on. I now have more access to my materials, which means, which is here in my reflections in this little Google Doc, that there is no excuse for me not to be doing more interactive teaching. And whether or not you call that brain breaks, like Annabelle Allen is the queen of brain breaks, and there are so many people like her that are awesome and that share, and we're so eternally thankful for them all the time. Or whether you don't call them brain breaks and you say, I don't know, I guess my class is interactive enough, I've never thought about specific brain breaks. That's fine. Keep doing that, whatever. But the point is, students need to be moving, and they need to be moving with purpose. There's one thing to just like, oh, we played trashkaball. Also, it's December. We got to play some trashkaball. But like trashkaball for the sake of trashkaball is cool. But what's the intention then, or what are they doing then with the results of trashkaball? So it's like incorporating movement, but incorporating intentional movement. That's going to become my big focus, my big goal. And organizing helped me see how much stuff I have that I wasn't using. And my reasons were valid, or so I tell myself. I'm still reflecting on that. But my reasons really were valid, I really do think, in that like we don't have room to use that bowling kit. Or then you have to make it a station. And stations are tricky because you can't make one station real sexy and the other 8 stations like, and now on the worksheet, because they're like, I want to play that one. And then everyone's jonesing to get to number 9. Eventually, the people at number 9 invite like 2 other groups that aren't them. Suddenly, everyone's playing with the plastic bowling set, and they're not Spanishing while they're doing it. So here we find ourselves. So I would get overwhelmed with all the stuff I had, but like only have like one set of it, or not have the room, or think I have the room. Okay, let's move the desk over to the side. But then my boys who are like literally 7'1", 6'4", like these tall, huge boys are like crunched up, with their knees up, like, that's fine. Everything's fine. I'm like, oh my God. So really accommodating everyone's space and using all my stuff are my 2 goals here. We got a class set of clipboards, sexied them up a little bit with the sticker, thanks to our school, not store, but our school like printing press essentially, which is great. And then from today, where it says Monday, 10 December and on, is what I've been noticing and my reflections. More than anything, the speed. We move a lot faster now. There's nothing like, and they kind of groan to get out of their desks. Like, all right, find somebody. They're like up and going because they can. Like, it's just, okay, now find 4 people. Great. And they just like go. There's no place to like spread out all of their stuff. There's no place to get kind of like sunk down into the desk to where, it's like being at a faculty meeting 20 minutes in after I've been sitting there and I'm kind of like doing one of these and I'm leaning and I'm comfortable. They decide like, let's do a gallery walk with sticky paper and brains. Absolutely not. No. And I'm like a bit of a meeting junkie, and I'm a people pleaser, and I love who I work for. And it's like, don't do the sticky paper. Don't make me do a gallery walk. Cause I've already kind of like, I've already sunk into the space. So it's really giving me a lot of reason, and it's making it very obvious. Keep it moving, lady. Keep it moving. Block schedule. You're like every 10 minutes maximum changing something. Or like the activity should have naturally evolved within itself anyway. So even if you put 10 minutes on the clock and it only takes them 6, they should have the next thing there so that they can move on, which it differentiates itself in that way in terms of pacing then, because kids are like, okay, can I do the next one? As long as you did that interpersonal, now you can go ahead and skip to the presentational writing, and you can be a little bit over planned, and it's going to accommodate some kids actually really nicely. So I put some pictures here of different games, same games. We've just been able to play them way more interactively and in a bigger group, and it's super fun. Games like spoons and so on. And I put some YouTube videos that explain those games. I'm wearing the same sweatshirt. So no wardrobe change, sorry. And And then games like, Four Corners and Muévete Si, move if, and so on. I literally gave my students, I'm going to expand this a little bit. I literally just took a picture of the classroom and then like told them where to go based on that. I was feeling super lazy. Had the sticky paper out and was like, and I'll write here, like, I agree. And then I just got really tired of writing, like on the big sticky paper. And then I was like, where am I going to stick it? Because anyways, I was over it. So I ended up just making graphics. Like I just took a panorama of the classroom and then put on it like where to stand. I agree. If you're not sure, like it depends, you're in the middle. And then like agree is over by the door. I disagree is over by the chair. Have a nice day. And they just kind of like moved around accordingly. That's the tech lazy version of like Four Corners, move if, da 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 da. And so I put a couple of pictures of that. And so kind of what that looks like. So if you zoom in, I'm super zoomed out, but if you zoom in on the Google Doc, you can see those pictures. Or I can just make them bigger. It's whatever. Anyways, furthermore, and then lastly, I should say, in terms of speed, everything has sped up. Transitions have sped up. Pacing has sped up because we probably didn't need 10 minutes to do blah, blah, blah. It only took them 6. And I notice it way more now. Like I notice it because they don't have the desk to be like waiting patiently. Suddenly it's like, and I'm on my phone. And you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like all of a sudden you see them put their stuff down and instead of like they were just kind of here the whole time. And you couldn't really tell if they were working unless you were right next to them or watching them or monitoring. So now it's way more obvious because it's like clipboard's not in hand, pencil's not in hand. It's just, it looks different. And suddenly I was noticing the first day, like, oh, we didn't really need 10 minutes for that. Okay, clase, sí, vamos a cambiar, and they're like, okay. So things have been moving so quickly, which also means that I'm not as overplanned as I was, which is good because I shouldn't have been overplanned. My pacing was on point. I was just being lazy and taking too long to do stuff. There, I said it out loud because it is November and now it's December. And I was just, listen, I'm doing the best I can. So that's me being totally transparent. I was like, ooh, we have been a little lackadaisical with this warm-up taking 20 minutes. Like, listen, we have days like that, but we got to quit that because now there is no reason because it's real obvious. Here we are watching a video here, which has been kind of fun. So it's like, can I sit on the floor? Yep. And they kind of spread out and it's totally fine. Like, yeah, no problem. Again, 6'3" boy. Sure, please get comfortable. And I found that it gives us more room. They can sit, lean against a wall and they're still doing what they need to be doing. It's just a little bit easier and people are a little bit more comfortable. And I think they appreciate that. And then I mentioned above too, cell phones are really obvious now. We're BYOD, so cell phones are okay. Cell phones are super obvious and sleeping is super obvious / nearly non-existent. I still have one. Nearly, but he has to like slump and I think he looks really uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, you know what? Live your best life. I tried to wake you up once, but if you're going to slump over and like probably have like a little crick in your neck, the consequences are natural. But like the kids that like glasses are off, like they didn't fall asleep. They went to sleep. Those are different, right? Falling asleep and going to sleep. The kids who are like glasses off and good night, no longer, the glasses stay on and we are in the zone. And so that's been really fun too, because also it's super obvious. It's super obvious if they're kind of like slumped over or trying to put their elbow in a place and can't quite get comfy. Dang it, lady, I can't sleep. And I'm like, we just make eye contact. I'm like, I'm doing great. Staying awake. That has been like almost completely eradicated, which is amazing because I was like, oh, they're either going to be really mad at me, which is probably still a thing, or like it's going to go really well, maybe both. I was just nervous that it'd be like, no, I want to sleep. But I've seen a couple of them like, man, I can't sleep. Like literally say that to somebody. I'm like, good for you. At least you know it. So that wasn't the reason, but it's kind of a nice byproduct. I'm in a very supported environment where it's, if you're getting observed or somebody's visiting and you're seen like, trying to wake up the student, that's seen as like a redirection, reminder, you're covered. But we still have sleepers. We start super early. We started like 7:10. So it's, you try to reconcile being human with like being a teacher. And it's like, dude, that's starting to tick me off. But also I know you have 2 jobs. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's gotten nearly rid of that. And then, lastly, I just kind of talk about here in the Google Doc, like the physical presence is a little bit different, and I find it's more obvious to see that it's obviously easier, but it's also clear who you've got and who you don't. My thing is always, waiting on two pairs of eyes, waiting on two pairs of eyes. There we go. All right, we're ready to rock and roll. And now it's like, and scan, like waiting on three. Give me, yeah, perfect. Awesome. Let's do this. Let's start. And so on. And it's like just everything's faster and everything's more noticeable and everything's super obvious, which has been really fun. So, in terms of that physical barrier between classmate and teacher and student, it's pretty much gone, which is awesome. And students are able to get up and like chit chat a little easier. So doing their interpersonal, I'll give you an example here, doing either, their daily roster or, for example, like their ICANNs here, which is, talking to two different people for each of these. So you've got so you've got 18 people. You need to talk to at least 18 people. For my classes, that's still about 10 people you haven't talked to, but it just goes faster. It's like, okay, you have, you have 5 minutes, not nearly enough. They only got to like 2 people. Great. You have 5 minutes, ready, go. And it's like, okay, let's do this. Like I said before, there's no reason not to start. And we're just doing so much interpersonal that this is what it ends up looking like. It's like, okay, go. Like, I'm here, I'm standing, you're sitting, whatever. Caitlin's over here talking to this other student. Naomi's like getting hers ready, and then she's going from there. Again, it splits things up and it kind of differentiates itself to where it's just a little bit easier to see what's happening when, especially when I give them, for example, like a roster. I give students the whole class roster and then questions at the top, and they have to ask every student every question. And so with desks here, you kind of stay within your first 3 or 4 people at first. Now, without desks, they start with their group, but some just like start standing all of a sudden and just like go talk to other people. And it ends up looking like that previous picture did. It ends up looking just like this. And there's nowhere to like not go. It's like, oh yeah, let me walk over here. Let me talk to Naomi. Let me talk to this person. And so it's pretty cool. So it's just a different vibe. There's less of a boundary in between us and less of a boundary of them between each other. So feel free to check out the Google Doc reflections in the file that says pictures. Like I said, here are a bunch of pictures, and I've labeled them, 19 so far, labeled them by what they are to look at, what they are that you're looking at. And so far, so good. I have no regrets. And I definitely owe everyone who has blogged and just so openly and candidly shared their thoughts on going Deskfree, but including those who have said, did it, hated it, went back, or did it, didn't love it, here's how I modified, or, did it, I loved it, the students hated it, here's how we compromised, or whatever. People just share so openly, and I think that's what makes teacher Twitter and just all teacher social media and teacher YouTube, and I just put teacher in front of all the things I love, because we are there too. So thank you to everyone who did that, and I will hopefully, unless life gets overwhelming, it always does, be able to continue about once a week or so, compiling some pictures, and at least for a while, so that I can share how it has progressed, or the different speed bumps. But so far, so good. People are confused when they walk by; they kind of just stare in the doorway. And I've had a colleague say that students said, "She can't do that." Like students who they have, but like mentioned it, and they were like, "Yes, she can." So it's going to be really funny next semester with all new students. Like, hello and welcome. So hopefully their friends have said positive things. But anyway, so check it out and let me know if you have any questions.